In 2008, a 16-year-old MMA fighter walked into the Avi Resort and Casino to make his professional debut. 3 years later, a 19-year-old Sean Strickland would headline his first main event under King of the Cage, putting his opponent away in the first round. After winning his 8th professional fight, maintaining his perfect professional record, Sean was given the opportunity to fight for the vacant middleweight belt at King of the Cage in his native California. After defending his belt 4 times, the undefeated 22-year-old was approached by the MMA leader, the UFC. Strickland was 13-0, with 10 finishes and 7 years of MMA experience, and looked poised to become a future UFC star. His first fight came against Bubba McDaniels, the 3rd pick by John Jones in season 17 of TUF 2 years earlier. His debut was fast and flashy, choking out McDaniels in the first round. After gaining another win at welterweight over the undefeated Luke Barnett, Sean made the decision to drop down to welterweight, hoping to have a size advantage over his opponents. He was drawn against Santiago Ponzinibbio, who today is ranked number 13 at welterweight. Although the fight was close, with 8 strikes separating the two men, the forward pressure of Ponzinibbio was enough to hand the 23-year-old Sean Strickland his first professional defeat as an MMA fighter. Despite losing his perfect record, Strickland stayed at welterweight, winning his next 3 fights, going to 18-1 as a pro. The UFC gave Sean a chance to finally move into the welterweight rankings. Unfortunately for Strickland, it would come against a man by the name of Kamaru Usman, who was ranked number 11 at welterweight at the time. Kamaru used his constant wrestling pressure to keep Strickland down in the first, although no significant damage was done as they stalled against the fence. Sean's eye did start to close up, hampering his vision throughout the rest of the fight. During the second, it was clear Strickland was wary of the takedown, which allowed Kamaru to open up with his hands, outlanding Strickland with his forward pressure. Sean's hesitance grew throughout the fight, and his closed eye made it too hard to make anything of the final round, losing 30-26 on 2 judges' scorecards. The loss to Usman was a hard one for Strickland, but he used the loss as fuel and made the necessary adjustments to his game. Since fighting the future welterweight champion, Sean is still yet to be taken down, with the last time he was grounded dating all the way back to 2017. After winning his comeback fight against Court McGee, Sean was paired up against Elizu Dos Santos, who had won his last 4. Despite looking like the better fighter early on, Dos Santos caught Strickland with a spinning wheel kick, becoming the only person to finish the talented kickboxer. I just want to interrupt to say thank you for watching. I put a lot of time into these videos, so it means a lot if you drop a like, as it's the best way to support me as a creator. Thanks. After a successful return in 2018, finishing Nordin Taleb with ground and pound in the second, Sean was out on a motorcycle ride before a van turned into his path. I woke up in the hospital, going into surgery with the doctor telling me, "You got hit by a car and you're going into knee surgery." And I just started crying because all I could think about was my career. Every doctor I spoke to told me, "Hey Sean, you probably can fight again, but it's probably not a good idea." My surgeon said, "You left part of your kneecap on that road." The forced break allowed time for Sean to reflect on his own career. A hesitance and a pressure to win fights had kept Strickland cautious in the octagon. However, his accident changed his mentality towards fighting. Instead of being all, "I don't want to get hit, I don't want to lose," I'm at the point in my life where it's just let's scrap and see what happens. While his potential was still clear, Sean's career had become one of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Although Strickland had only lost to top opponents, he decided to make a career move back to middleweight, a weight class he was still undefeated at. 735 days after his accident, Sean returned against Jack Marshman at middleweight. Sean put on a clinic in his first fight back, landing a career-high 106 strikes while avoiding 81% of what Jack Marshman threw his way. After taking all 3 rounds, Sean signed himself up to face up-and-coming talent Brandon Allen, a former Legacy Fight Alliance middleweight champion at the ripe age of 22, who was already 3-0 in the UFC. Although Brandon landed some stiff jabs and caught Strickland with a right hand early on, Strickland overall had the better striking and wrestling in the first. In the second, Strickland had good flow, taking full advantage of Brandon Allen's still head. After landing some good combinations, Strickland caught Allen with a hook and finished him against the fence, taking his career as a professional middleweight to 17-0, and moved himself, somehow only for the first time, into the UFC rankings. Gaining the performance of the night and taking himself to 2 wins in 2020, Sean Strickland was recognised by MMA Junkie and Sherdog presenting him as the comeback fighter of the year, returning from what for many would have been a career-ending injury. His first fight as a ranked fighter would come against Krzysztof Jotko. The Polishman has an awkward style, but Strickland was able to walk him down in the first, with his striking looking as crisp and fast as ever. Jotko offered more in the second at the expense of his gas tank, while Strickland stayed composed, chipping away at his opponent. The third round, Strickland controlled it, staying calm and leaning on his fundamentals, with his clean boxing taking him the third round. Sean does a good job of sticking the jab when his opponents try and close the distance, and is happy looking for counters as he moves backwards, often having to circle off the fence. He stays very calm, often almost coasting through rounds, helping him maintain his stamina. However, when Strickland lands hard, he will smell blood and try and finish his opponents. The biggest thing I take away from watching so much Sean Strickland is just how clean his fundamentals are, relying on simple but effective strikes, liking to kick the legs and the body, and relying heavily on his 1-2. Sean is 10-3 in the UFC and is yet to lose a fight at middleweight. Strickland is a hard worker, and his 15 years of MMA experience has turned him into a very technically sound professional. I look forward to seeing him fight Uriah Hall tomorrow in what will be an interesting fight. I think we will see whoever can bring the more complete performance get their hand raised, as the two can go toe-to-toe as kickboxers. So how do you think Sean Strickland goes about beating the infamous Uriah Hall? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Otherwise, peace.
He's fighting angry, right? And I mean that in a good way.
Right. He wants to make a statement in his UFC debut.
Kimura possibility on the left arm of Bubba. He's looking for it. He wants to pin that arm down. He's going to step over. Okay, much better now. Good job. In trying to go after that hand, he gave up an opening. Look at this. Beautiful job taking the back. Very nicely done. Bubba is in all sorts of trouble.
30
right
seconds.
Under the chin.
Trying to finish it. Then it's all over.
Beautiful
Sean
job.
Strickland
Lives up to the hype and then some.
wins his UFC debut, choking out Bubba McDaniel.
Beautiful job. I mean, once he